Jackie was very well known as a perfectionist. Her room was spick and span, as were her clothes. She didn't allow a spot, not even a wrinkle. But an even bigger perfectionist she knew of was her own mother. She would always make sure to keep the house completely clean, no matter what, and the African American girl guessed that had slowly rubbed off on her. Not that she didn't mind. She did find things more endurable when it was clean. Lucky her. But it did get bothersome, at least sometimes. There was never a day when she went home and didn't clean anything, even if the mother was there or not. That was only the negative of it, how obsessive it was. But she loved her mother and accepted, maybe not always agree, everything in the home needed to be perfection. There was nowhere, not even in cyberspace, where there isn't any dangerous territories. Somewhere out there is Lay. Sure, there was the northern frontier where hackers stayed, but that's not exactly as bad. Maybe the spheres of fear? No. Other kinds of dangerous territory, where you don't know what's going to come at you and what's there that could harm you. When you meet it, you can't help but feel a shiver pass and wonder if this was a good idea or not. Now, standing in front of unknown territory, the cyber squad stood. Around them was purple trees with mint green leaves, but all the trees blocked most view and seemed to crowd around them. And now, newly discovered cybersite this was, and they couldn't help but feel the hairs on the back of their necks stand, as if something was wrong with the place. With a sigh, Matt looked over at his friends. I'll go first. Shaking her head, a young woman stared at an old photo in her hand, her lips pursed and a sad look in her eyes. Her black hair held high in a bun, red bead necklace hanging around her necks, as were their red circular earrings hanging from her ear. The young woman by the name of Jacqueline, though commonly referred to Jackie by her friends, could still hardly believe those days were over. Once upon a time did she have amazing adventures in a strange world with trusting and loving friends, but those days were gone, and she had forced to forget about them until going through her old things. It made her want to cry. She had made herself think that she had gotten over it all, and had stated that she had her own life now, and that cyberspace wasn't a part of it any longer. A quick stab of regret hit her. Why did she say that? Sure, they had beaten a hacker, but they could have still come back and helped out, and yet her teenage self stamped that as unneeded. With a sigh, she put the picture away and leaned back. Yes, she missed those days, now that they had come out from hiding. That picture of her, Inez, Matt, and Digit was enough to bring regret, full force, and rise the memories from their sleep. Inez always found cyberspace a wonderful place, beautiful and colorful, filled with kind and caring people, gentle and almost always willing to help, under the rule of a nurturing leader by the name of Motherboard. It was a land of fantasy with wonderful twilight background, a mix of shining purple and mossy green and dull fading stars. There were the many different cybersites, all having their unique looks and unique characters. There were robots, cyborgs, monsters, fantasy creatures, and more. It was all unknown. It was all mysterious. It even wasn't fully explored yet. This place was filled with chances, goals, and more. But what she never thought about was what was under it all. The fact that it may not be as innocent as its appearance gave, and how the characters in the land all had flaws too. Maybe even deeper ones than just the casual faulty in a personality. Yes, what the young Latino, even her two trusting friends, didn't see was all the shades of grey hidden underneath the peeling paint. And there he went on again. With a light sigh, he watched his friend lie. It wasn't a surprise. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't used to it, or even care much about it anymore. As long as he didn't lie directly to him, he was perfectly okay with it. But then there was the blame game that he sometimes played that made a Deline robot upset. They usually had their childish fights, trying to pin the blame on one another. But somehow, it was a little different, and he allowed it. He always seemed to allow this, being blamed and lied to, and did nothing about it, unable to get his word, and after boss and started yelling and shouting at him, and his friend a little too. He wanted to complain about it, tell that he wasn't going to stand for it, but since he couldn't stay mad long, or at least stay mad at his friend for a long period of time, he always forgot. Sighing, Delete looked warily at Buzz. It was just the same as it was all the past times, and he now guessed nothing would change it. Alone in silence and dread thoughts sat one of the most hated beings in cyberspace. Yes, the notorious hacker sat plotting, thinking, whatever word that related to scheming, but he couldn't come up with a thing. An empty bottle lied beside him on his desk. Upon looking at it, you could tell what it was. Alcohol. Now you wouldn't think such a guy like Hacker ever drank, right? Well, that's partially true. He detested the taste and was quite disgusted with it, but he felt the need to have it now. Gazing up at the metal wall in front of him, the hacker scowled briefly before returning to just frowning. Not a single idea, just a blurry mind and a growing headache. He was sure he had practically tried everything in his power to gain cyberspace, but yet to no avail. It still wasn't his. However much the selfish Borg wanted it, he couldn't quite get a grasp on it, and how he could practically feel it slipping more and more away. It became a default routine now to wash the now negative thoughts that nipped at him in his mind, but it took a lot. The empty bottle proved so. Perhaps he could just give up. Blah, he was the infamous hacker, future ruler of cyberspace, and now he was thinking about quitting, pushing away all his hard work. It made it scowl again, and now his eyes. He never gave up. He'd been trying for years, and just because it was becoming a little more difficult than before didn't mean he would stop. No, Hacker would never stop, even if it killed him. Standing up, he made a swift exit out of the room, feeling as though he didn't want to deal with the already unforgiving headache that crashed upon him. Tomorrow, he told himself, he would have an idea, and they could get back on schedule. Suggesting that drink to his friend was probably one of the worst ideas he had ever made in his lifetime. Warily, Buzz dragged Delete by the cord away from the pub, the high-pitched giggles starting to bug the short robot endlessly. But this is what he deserved. He had already known that Delete could get way off his rocker from a little bit too much sugar or coffee. Even when he wasn't on a sugar high, he was still a rambling defect. Whoever gave him the idea that it was perfectly acceptable to take him here? None. He didn't even think it through and how it would end up like. I'm never taking you to another pub again, he grumbled. What Delete did was highly embarrassing to his friend personally, not Buzz himself. How? It was obvious that the robot was searching for words to say, but found none, so his mouth clamped shut and silence ensued. Except his relief of the quiet didn't last long, seeing as the high-pitched giggle starting up again. Will you be quiet? He finally snapped, glancing behind him, seeing that Delete was trying to stop, but apparently couldn't. What's so funny, anyway? He couldn't help but ask. I never noticed you look like a head with feet and legs. Gritting his teeth, Buzz blocked him out now. His patient was seriously wearing thin with the taller robot. You sure it's safe? The question rung through the once silent air. The one who voiced this question and turned his head to look at the stout and round character beside him with a slight look of concern. The one who the question was directed to simply waved away his friend's concerns. I'm sure it's fine, Dee Dee, he grumbled out, looking away. Frowning, the taller of the two pressed on in expressing his concern. But, Buzzy, doesn't it seem kinda, I don't know, loose? He asked, toying with the rope that was attached to the trap they were setting up. Raising an eyebrow, Buzz glanced up at Dee Dee as if he were joking. Loose? What do you mean, loose? I mean exactly what I'm saying. Doesn't it look unstable? Like it wouldn't... What's the word I'm looking for? The short robot rolled his eyes. How am I supposed to know what the word you're looking for is? I don't know. I thought... Wait, I wasn't even asking you, Delete replied, rather pointedly, tugging on the rope slightly. But really, it seems I'm safe, he mumbled, looking the trap over before redirecting his attention to Buzz. Unsafe? Why would you care? It's a trap for those Earth kids and their tin turkey. Why does it matter if it isn't safe? The lean robot bit his lip. Oh, well, I don't want anyone to get hurt. I mean, the trap may also fail. Look, Delete. Buzz started, in no mood to listen to his friend's concerns over the safety of the trap. I'm sure it's just fine. Besides, we need to get back to the boss now, so come on. Turning away, he started to head back to the Grim Reaper, only pausing for a second to wait for Delete, who soon enough came up beside him and after fiddling with the rope a bit more. As they walked, Delete sighed and shrugged his shoulders, glancing behind him at the almost obvious trap. So much for safety first. What are you doing? Delete glanced upwards and at his friend, who stood looking at him with something close to a curious look on his face. Though by the way the question was posed, it sounded as if he had been doing something ridiculous, which the robot heavily believed that it wasn't anything of the sort. Twirling what appeared to be a pen in his hand, he shrugged. Honestly, he didn't know much about what he was doing himself. He was just acting upon a random thought that he had entered his mind only 12 minutes prior to now. Writing? He stopped twirling the pen and looked at the paper in front of him, letting out a weary sigh. He could barely make out what he had written. Glancing at the slip of paper and then back at Delete, Buzz raised a brow. Since when had writing ever been important to Delete? He was very aware of the fact that his friend could read and that he did it more often than anyone would dare to think. But writing? Just seeing that expression on the stout robot's face made the thinner one aware of what he was going to ask, so instead of waiting for him to voice it, he spoke up again. I know I am Buzzy, but I thought since I can already read, I may as well try writing? Somehow he had confused himself. Why did he even want to? It wasn't even something required for his job. Writing isn't as needed skill, DD. Yeah, and you could say the same thing about the reading. Buzz snorted and shook his head. Stop talking about it, because I get it. You can read. Congratulations. Want a medal? Actually, a medal would be really nice. Could be like one of those kind of medal He rolled his eyes, interjecting a reply within the middle of his friend's starting a ramble. That was sarcasm, which only got a simple, "Oh," as a reply from Delete, which made him roll his eyes once more. Deciding to drop the subject, Buzz turned away while the other bot, who meanwhile had already returned to his scribbling or attempts at writing without making words, looked like a mess. Her mind could barely process. There at her desk, she sat with her head in her hands, mouth clamped shut. The clock ticked tauntingly behind her, as if mocking her. It was irritating to say, in the least. Inez blew out a long-winded breath and looked up. All around, kids were scribbling down answers, erasing there and more. Some of them were already done, too. Biting her lower lip, she looked back down at the dreaded blank sheet of paper in front of her. Almost every day she used math and wits to beat a villain by the name of Hacker and his two henchmen, Buzz and Delete, solving problems as well. But here she was, the considerably smartest link in the cyber squad, struggling with a test. The Latino blinked. She knew the answers, but she couldn't come to bring them up. Maybe it was because of stress. The idea of failing? Not getting an A like every other assignment she did? There were many potential answers, but the young girl didn't bother to find one, seeing as it was wasting her time. Reading through the questions one more time, she realized how easy they were, and confidence suddenly built up inside her. Not even bothering to turn to look at what time it is, Inez went on a mad dash to answer every question. No need to waste any more time. She had a test to complete and ace after all.